Hey everybody, welcome back in the shed. I'm Troy. This is Dave.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about the top 3 scary, spooky, and or evil sounding songs. So there are a lot of bands, a lot of shock rock bands in the past, 40 years that have put out what I would call, scary sounding songs. I mean, you have like Alice Cooper, you have
Rob Zombie.
Michael Jackson's Thriller is another good song that almost made my list, but it didn't quite make it. You have
made the list.
Monster Mash. Monster Mash, which is a little more...
It's the Monster Mash.
It's a little more of a... I would call that a kid song.
It's a graveyard smash.
I would call it more of a kid song.
Yeah, it was.
Especially these days. Maybe not when it came out. I don't know. My number 3 is not a band, but it's an artist from the 80s who was pretty much a one-hit wonder. The song is Somebody's Watching Me.
I always feel like somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy.
I remember watching that video when I was a teenager, and it was a freaky video. I loved that video. I watched it so many times. I loved the song, and I guess Michael Jackson was sort of trying to help him with his career.
Really?
And he actually sings the chorus.
You totally hear Michael Jackson.
Yeah, at the time I didn't know that. I had no idea. I remember hearing that. Somebody's watching me.
He could do it better than I could.
And I have no privacy. Oh. But that whole intro is like, it's a creepy sounding song. And it was one of my favorite one-hit wonders from the 80s for sure. And my son, who's 7, Lennon, he loves that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great song. What's your number 3?
Well, it's a song that wasn't intended as a spooky song or a whatever song. It's Helter Skelter by the Beatles. Charlie Manson was a big fan of the Beatles, and he kind of took that song and co-opted it. And when the Charlie Manson family did the Tate LaBianca murders in LA, they wrote Helter Skelter on the refrigerator in blood or on the walls. I can't remember what it was. You can never hear that song and never think of, Charlie Manson.
Yeah.
And the murders, and it was so horrific that to this day, I think anytime anyone hears Helter Skelter, they're going to talk about the Tate LaBianca murders, and
it ended up being the murder anthem in a way.
Yeah. To this day, it's been tarnished. I mean, Paul, when he wrote the song, it was. I think he was writing it about a slide or something.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
It was like a carnival slide or something. Went from the top to the bottom and all that stuff. But it's all it's been co-opted.
When I think of Helter Skelter, I think of Charles Manson. That's what I think of.
Yeah.
And your favorite band from the 80s, Motley Crue, they also did a version on their Shout the Devil album.
Helter Skelter. Helter Skelter.
Really? How was it?
It was pretty good, yeah. It's the first time I'd ever heard Helter Skelter.
No way.
Yeah.
We're so separated by years.
The guitar. It's like so heavy and distorted, and yeah, it's a great song.
Yeah, me and Troy are separated by 10 important years.
Barely. My number 2 is probably a song you've never heard of, and probably a song a lot of people have never heard of. It's Metallica's "The Thing That Should Not Be," which was on their Master of Puppets album.
Hybrid children watch the sea. Pray for Father, roaming free.
That is definitely. It's an epic song because it's a long song, and that intro, clean guitar. I don't know if they've tuned down or tuned different, or whatever effects they have on that, and the way it builds, and the lyrics are so freaking dark. That's the word I'm
Yeah.
looking for. Dark. A dark song for sure. Metallica's Master of Puppets is their best album and probably their last good album. A really, really good album, in my opinion.
I'm sure a lot of Metallica fans will call you out on that, but
You know, they're not real Metallica fans in.
all right.
If they think anything after Master of Puppets is as good as anything on Master of Puppets, then they're not true Metallica fans.
Well, my number 2 is extremely freaking dark song. It's the first song off the first album of this band, and it's Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath.
What is this that stands before me?
It takes so long for it to like build up to the, you got the bell, boom, wah, wah,
The Devil's Note.
when Ozzy finally gets around to what is this that stands before me? I mean, you're probably 3 minutes into the song, and and it builds up. And it's a very dirge kind of song, and then they finally get to rocking, and it's really, really.
They have that.
Tony Iommi's guitar is just satanic.
Yeah, yeah. That when they get to that breakdown part towards the middle end, that it is the end, my friend.
It was in '69. I mean, Zeppelin had come out with their first album about the same time, but nothing even remotely sounded like Black Sabbath, and they were the progenitors of heavy metal in my book, because that was heavy and it was dark and it was satanic and it was like it scared a lot of parents.
Well, your number two is my number one.
Oh, really?
I love. First of all, I love Black Sabbath, and what a great opening song on a debut album.
Yeah,
just that whole build up, and there's only like 7 songs on that album, but it's like you go, one song leads into the other, and you have that whole Geezer Butler little whatever the heck he's playing.
It was great bass work on the
and
album.
I think they recorded it in a few days, and the production is so good. When we talked about doing this topic, I listened to it a few days ago, and I was like, it sounds so good, especially the remastered version. They did a remastered version probably 5-10 years ago, and the production on it. It blows stuff out of the last 20 years out of the water. Yeah, it's great.
It was unique.
It definitely was unique, because you'd never heard anything like that before.
Nothing.
Yeah. What's your number one?
My number one is the greatest spooky song of all time. It's Screaming Jay Hawkins, I Put a Spell on You.
I put a spell on you. Because of mine.
Most of you out there probably have heard the song. Many haven't. But
Didn't CCR do a version?
I put a spell on you.
a lot of people have covered that song. Screamin' Jay was like this total unique individual. I mean, he was born in the 20s or something, and he released that song in like 56 or 57 or somewhere. It was like in the height of rock and roll time, and nothing was ever like performed like that. And he was spooky, man. I mean, he had this.
He was the original
shock rock.
Shock
right?
rock, yeah.
He was the original shock rocker. I grew up watching Little Rascals, and there was an episode that had the wild man from Borneo, and he had like this black guy had his bone in there. It was like so politically incorrect now. I mean, there's no way you could release something like this now. But that was Screamin' Jay. I mean, he did this like performance where he came out of a coffin. He was on Dick Cavett. He was on all these shows, and he had the bone in his nose, and he just sang in this harrowing sort of spooky ass baritone.
I actually heard that song on Tom Petty Radio a few days ago after we talked about this subject, and I thought, hey, that's a good song that could be in our top 3, and it's Dave's number 1.
It's unsurpassed. I mean, he was such a character. I mean, he had like, you know, he was a pro boxer. He had like 50 illegitimate kids. I mean, the guy, what a true original.
Yeah. So what are your top 3 scary, spooky, and or evil songs? Leave a comment below, let us know if you agree with me, if you agree with Dave, if you agree with the combination of our picks. Let us know below, and we'll see you next time. Oh, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Did I say that? Subscribe to the channel. Also like it, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.